from Comcast NewsMakers. My name is Erin Muffoletto. We are in Santa Fe, New Mexico today, and I am joined by Representative Garcia Richard. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start off with a little bit about where's your district? Where are you from?
So I represent District 43, and that is all of Los Alamos County.
Okay.
And then a small portion here in Santa Fe County, actually, a rural part over in La Cienega area.
Okay.
And then the entire Jemez Mountain Range, Jemez Springs on one side, Cuba on the other, and then even a few precincts up into Rio Arriba County.
Okay,
so
wow.
four parts of 4 different counties.
Oh, so you have a busy area.
Yeah, very geographically spread, very diverse.
Right. And are there any top priorities you're pushing or opposing for your constituents right now?
So we are really trying to push economic development, especially in Los Alamos. So as you know, Los Alamos has the National Lab.
Yes.
And so for 70 years, it's sort of been what's known kind of as a company town. Pretty much all of the employees work for the lab.
Right.
And so we're really looking at diversifying the economy in Los Alamos to try to, leverage some of the technology that's coming out of the lab for commercial purposes, but also to even try to bolster retail in Los Alamos and small business development.
And how is the economy in Los Alamos in those areas right now?
So we always are heavily reliant on what's happening at the federal level, just because the lab is federally funded.
Right.
The budget that comes out of Washington pretty much dictates whether or not the lab, has a sizable budget for the year or not, and so we're always kind of constantly watching the Washington process for that. Yeah. Because we do have a federal budget through the end of the fiscal year, it's actually great news for Los Alamos. So that's good. The other issues that we've been working on is really trying to encourage some of our smaller business development.
Right. And you've been working with the Interim Jobs Council, correct?
That's right.
And there was a jobs package that was proposed. Tell us a little bit about that.
So let me back up and just say a few words about the Jobs Council itself, because it was pretty unique when it was put together. It was legislatively created, but then it took in both parties, both sides of the legislature, so both Senate and House members. It was actually chaired by a senator and a representative. But then also it took in something very unique. Chamber of Commerce had a seat, Labor had a seat on the Jobs Council, and then we had the Governor's Economic Development Secretary also on the Jobs Council.
Oh, great.
We heard back from economists. It was a 2-year process where we basically took a very hard analytic look at job creation in New Mexico, talked about which industries we could really target and take advantage of because we live here. Tourism,
yes.
Arts, definitely trying to leverage the national laboratories. We've got a lot of potential for high tech, so anything from data storage to people doing solo work, out of their homes. And so with that Jobs Council meeting for 2 years, they came out with a list of recommendations. And so, Erin, the other great thing about the Jobs Council is that every single recommendation coming out of that council was vetted by every single member. So if there was even one veto, the recommendation didn't make it to the final list. So
that's pretty bipartisan then.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So when I talk about the recommendations, I just really want to emphasize for you, and the listeners that these are recommendations that had some pretty heavy debate around them and came out unanimously from this council. So the first one is a $50 million infusion into a closing fund to try to attract new industry or grow new industry here in New Mexico. Another recommendation was for an increase in our tourism budget. I don't know if you know and she's a former tourism secretary now, the secretary of CYFD, Monique Jacobson, just did a great job in getting a 3-to-1. Amazing work. I mean, she comes from sort of the top echelon of marketing in the United States. So she brought that powerhouse to marketing New Mexico. Right. Created the New Mexico True campaign, started doing the partnerships with smaller communities around the state so that they could have their own, tailor-made True New Mexico True campaign. And so
that's what I've loved. A lot of the local chambers or local tourism groups, they can do their own thing with that model.
That's sort of tailor-made to the locale, you know. And so so we did recommend an influx of an appropriation to the tourism department, the closing fund. We looked at workforce development. We're really wanting to address, you know, it's interesting because it bridges the education world and the jobs world when you're talking about workforce, because you're really trying to target skills towards certain industries, towards certain professions. And so we took a look at that. We had a recommendation on forestation. I don't know if you think about it sort of naturally off the top of your head, but because of the state of the forests in New Mexico, they're extremely they haven't been managed consistently over about a century's long period, maybe a half a century. And so there really is economic development in going in, thinning the forests, creating healthier watersheds, but then using that biomass to create a commercialization from. Jemez Pueblo is actually doing that very thing.
Right. And just a real quick, maybe 20-second wrap-up of those recommendations. Do you foresee them going forward the next year?
So they have actually been going forward so far. They are in this year's budget. They have been supported unanimously by I should say almost unanimously.
Yeah.
They have been supported bipartisanly, and the governor has really tried to be out in front and say that these are the initiatives that she is pushing. And so, yeah.
Well, that's great.
We're feeling very hopeful about these initiatives.
Well, thank you so much for your hard work on that. It sounds like it's going amazing. So that is it for today. My name is Erin Muffoletto with Comcast NewsMakers, and we will see you next time. And thank you, Representative, for all your hard work.
Thank you.